It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Well, let's talk about why are index funds so successful. First, cost. I mean, if it's cheaper, you're getting to keep that money in your back pocket.
Well, it just naturally, I think of low cost being like a head start in the investment world, right? So like if you're going to be 50 basis points cheaper than an active manager, that active manager immediately has to perform 50 basis points better just to break even.
Sure.
So that's a huge hurdle to have to get over right there from Jump Street.
And that's what, let's go through some of these stats because and realize the way that the investment company, ICI, the Investment Company Institute, publishes this annual data is they use what's called an asset weighted average, meaning that they're already giving both categories the benefit of the doubt by skewing the number down based upon what the most successful funds are. And for both active and for the index funds, the most successful funds are sometimes some of the more cost-effective or cheaper funds out there. So listen to these weighted averages, though, for expense ratios for active management. In 1996, it was 1.08%.
So the average internal expense ratio of an actively managed mutual fund at the end of the 1990s.
The weighted average, because the average was actually probably closer to 1.5%.
Okay,
when
so
I was
weighted.
digging through,
Okay.
so it's they like I said, they gave it benefit of the doubt for the ones because the more successful funds are the cheaper funds.
Yep.
So they weighted it. So it's 1996, it was 1.08%, 2017, 0.78%.
So a pretty significant drop, almost cutting a quarter, yeah.
So listen to this, index funds. And by the way, I remember when Vanguard, and you thought you were getting a deal, and you were, when Vanguard and Fidelity and them and their internal expenses of their index funds were in the 20, 30 basis points range. So 1996 index funds were 0.27%.
Still, so already just still way less expensive even than present day active funds.
2017, 0.09%.
I mean, it cut in a third, not a 30% drop, but literally cut in a third.
And then I put it on here in my notes because this is just me editorializing that 0.09 sounds cheap, but there are funds that are actually zero right now. So this trend is not going away. I imagine we're still getting pressure because we've heard that there's funds that are 0.01 or zero.
Yep.
I know Vanguard's 0.04 unless you're over a certain threshold, and it's 0.01. It's just crazy how cheap things are. So all this money that you get to save on cost savings is potentially money that's in your army of dollar bills that gets to keep working for you. You get to keep it essentially on the field or the battlefield and working for you instead of paying some unnecessary fees. So that's the first thing, cost.
Yep.
Here's one I don't hear as many people talk about, and it's a big deal. Tax efficiency. Now, maybe it's because I come from an accounting background.
Sure.
I kind of dig this stuff, and I probably nerded out for something that should be a 2-minute little blurb, and I actually did a lot of calculations. Did you notice that when you looked at the show notes?
I did notice it, and I did sort of in my mind say, yeah, he's a super nerd. That's true. But here's what I love about you did that. When it comes to investing, we don't get to pick which way the market goes, right? Market's going to go up, market's going to go down. We don't get to pick what it does. We can kind of alter our risk exposure, but there are two things that we can control, and we talk about this all the time. If you want to be a successful investor, two things that you get to control are costs, what you pay, and the second one is taxes, how tax efficient you are. So I think even though you nerded out on it, I think it makes a lot of sense.